This meeting is being recorded.
Katie, I would just call the meeting order. Let me just introduce Tom. And then I'll recuse.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, so I would like to welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of September 26, 2023.
And before you start tonight's public hearing, I just want to introduce some of the commission members to our consulting engineer, who is Todd Ritchie from SLR LLC. Am I saying that right, Tom? Todd, are you here?
Close enough. Yes, SLR International
Thank you,
Corporation.
Todd. Thank you. He has worked for the town of Bethel before, numerous years ago. And he is here working as our consulting engineer on all of our planning and zoning commission projects. And with that being said, the first item on your agenda is Tim Draper, 830 Affordable Housing, 42 Nashville Road, and I will be recusing myself from that application.
Madam Chair, I will also continue to recuse myself from this application.
And for the record, Ken Stevens, I am not sitting in as chair today. Kitty Grant is chairing the commission this evening.
Okay, but can we start this meeting by standing up and doing the pledge, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, so can we have the members of the commission online introduce them on Zoom, introduce themselves? Mr. Legnard?
Bob Legnard, Commissioner. Penny, happy Yom Kippur.
It's over. Thank you, dear.
I didn't see you. I didn't see you on Monday.
We'll talk.
Ken Stevens, sometimes chair, tonight not.
Awesome, okay,
Paul Shanley, Commissioner.
thank you,
Douglas Caney, alternate.
thank you.
Linda Curtis, alternate. Penny Kessler, Commissioner.
Kitty Grant?
Rob Wallace, alternate.
Okay, so I believe we're all here.
Kitty, you want to have the staff introduce themselves too, please?
Oh,
Beth Cabana, back, whatever my name is.
who you?
Planning
And
Zoning.
online there, sir?
Dave McCollum, Land Use Coordinator.
Thank you. Thank you.
And don't forget Amanda.
I was going to say, and Amanda's sitting there too.
You know what? I'm used to going over here. I thought she was out of the room. Please.
Amanda Martinez, recording secretary.
Thank you, Amanda.
Ken's gonna micromanage tonight.
Okay.
We have a
also
junior
like to-
commission member. We have a junior commission member sitting on her dad's lap.
Oh, yeah. Hello, beautiful. You want to introduce yourself?
Not really.
Okay, there's one thing I would like to.
Good to eat an apple.
I would like to ask Mr. Marcus, if you don't mind. We had a couple of comments about the application and various aspects of it.
Katie, can I just cut you off real quick? I'm recusing myself from this application.
Thank you.
As am I.
Doug Cuny and Paul Shanley are recusing themselves. Okay, other people who don't understand 830G. So do you think you could just give a quick overview so the public would understand and know what is going on with 830G?
I'd be happy to. Again, for the record, Neil Marcus, and 8-30G is a statutory provision in the planning and zoning section of the state statutes that was adopted sometime in 1988, as I recall, and became effective in the early 1990s. And it was the legislature's intent that every town and city in the state of Connecticut have a 10% housing stock that would be qualified for people who made either 80% or 60% of the state median income. In its original iteration, it was a 25% set aside, and it was at 75%, but that changed over the years pretty quickly. and the set aside became 30%. And it was divided, half of that for people who make 60% of the state median income and half who make 80%. And then the Department of the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, came out with guidelines over the years as to how to determine who qualifies. And there's an elaborate worksheet. And first of all, you have to figure out the state median income. And by the way, it's the lesser of the state or the local. Now, in the area that we live in, Fairfield County, the state median income is usually lower than the town median income. But if you jump over into Waterbury, the Waterbury town median income is much lower usually than the state traditionally. So we talk about the state median income more than the town. But it's the lower one sets the rate in which affordable housing is determined. So if you create affordable housing, basically you can override local zoning. And that was the key. And I call it the Robin Hood Act. You know, you remember as a kid, you watched Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest, and he was always robbing from the rich to give to the poor. That is essentially the theory of affordable housing. That what you do is you create additional market rate housing so that you can become rich as a developer, and therefore you can subsidize affordable housing. And quite honestly, the act, it's had a lot of criticism over the years. It's gone through a number of iterations, but in theory, it was kind of unique that they actually came up with the idea that you could force the creation of affordable housing. Now, it's not low-income housing; it's affordable housing. There are all these, there's a Title VIII and various housing vouchers, and there's HUD housing and CHAPA housing and all the various state and federal programs, which deal with other income groups. But affordable housing was really, it's now called actually in some areas, workplace housing, because it was meant really for the middle class. It was meant for people who, as I say, were not below the median income, but were not below the poverty line, but we're not quite up to the median income.
Mhm.
So it was essentially meant, quite honestly, in towns like Bethel and Brookfield and the smaller towns, for teachers and firemen and firefighters and people who live in the community but couldn't afford the housing anymore. So that was the theory, and that theory really hasn't changed. Affordable housing is still to create workplace housing at a discount over market rate housing. And to do that, again, you're allowed to override local zoning, but only to the extent that you don't create public health or safety issues. And of course, what the legislature did, I mean, this is what a lot of towns felt was very cruel. They flipped the burden of proof. So for years, we've come before commissions, and the commissions have said, show us that you meet our regulations. And the burden is on the applicant to show that they got traffic covered, they've got, the site plan works and the drainage all works. But that changes a little bit with affordable housing. The applicant still has to show that the application works, i.e., we're not going to create flooding and we're not going to create traffic hazards. But the burden really shifts to the commission to show that what its decision entails is an overriding concern for health and safety. And again, here's a caveat that cannot be addressed by reasonable modifications to the plan. So again, in the old days, it was somewhat all or nothing. You came in with an application, and if you didn't meet the regulations, the commission could say, sorry, we don't think you've met our regulations, we're denying it. And then you have to come back with a new application. But under affordable housing, if a commission says, sorry, we think you've created a health or safety issue because you don't do this or you don't do that, then you don't have to withdraw the application. You have 30 days to amend the application and come back and say, fine, if that's the problem, I've just corrected it. And it really doesn't require a rehearing of an entirely new application, so it's certainly more efficient. But the shifting of the burden has really been difficult for a lot of commissions to understand and to accept over the years. But as time has gone on, more and more commissions understand it. But for the public, it's not that you have to prove that I'm entitled to this housing project in this site plan. What you're saying is that I don't have to prove that. It's the law says I'm entitled to it. The commission has to say, here's why you're not entitled to it. And the burden shifts, and the commission needs to come up with legitimate reasons to deal with the application if they're going to deny it. And the interesting thing is, a lot of the affordable housing law has been written by a couple of judges of the Connecticut Superior Court. Originally, in the original act, it was determined that there would be one judge in the state of Connecticut who would be designated the affordable housing judge. That didn't quite work because they needed a larger panel. But originally, there were only 3 or 4 judges who would hear affordable housing appeals. So what the 3 or 4 additional judges did is they wrote the body of law to define an act that was kind of vague. It just said, well, what's public health and safety? What do you have to show in your application? And what does the commission have to do on its burden of proof? So all of that was sort of crashed out in the early appeals. And that developed a body of law that really still applies. And the interesting thing is, in the early cases where there was an appeal from an affordable housing denial, the odds of the applicant prevailing were about 75%. And the odds that a commission would prevail were probably about 25%, which was a huge shift from standard planning and zoning appeals. In the old days, I would say it was more stacked. 40% of the cases might be found for an applicant, 60% for a commission. That was more the balance historically. So for the public, unless you understand A, the theory, B, the actual provision of the statute, and more importantly, you really have to read a lot of cases. The law was being written early on a case-by-case basis. And I'll never forget, in my own personal opinion, my own personal experience. There was a fellow named Jimmy Green in Ridgefield who came marching into my office when the act became effective a year after it was passed. It said, Neil, we're going to file an affordable application in Ridgefield. And I said, that's nice. What are we doing? And I had to actually learn a new statute. And I brought my first application, and the Ridgefield Planning and Zoning Commission was a little bit lost. The applicant was a little bit lost. And at the end of the day, the case was denied. It went up on appeal, and Judge Marshall Berger, who interestingly enough has just permanently retired from the court. He's been the planning and zoning judge for years up in Hartford, but he was he was the original affordable housing judge. Judge Marshall Berger, in writing the decision, really brought clarity to a lot of the somewhat vague terms of the act. And at the end of the day, I lost the appeal, but I lost it on an issue that was easily correctable. And he made it very easy. We came back with a new application addressing that issue. But he pronounced certain things that were kind of incredible. One of them was the complaint. There were about 300 or 400 members of the public out opposed to this application. That was on Ivy Hill Road in Ridgefield. If you know Ridgefield, Ivy Hill Road is a terrible road. It's narrow, it's windy, and apparently back then it was not in very good shape. If you drove it, there were a lot of potholes. It was a dangerous road. And the public all came out and cited the accidents that had occurred on Ivy Hill Road as a reason to turn down our application. And Judge Berger found the exact opposite. He actually held in the court that was not a reason to deny it, because the applicant's property is basically undeveloped, so clearly he didn't create the problems.
Right.
The town had an obligation to maintain the road because the act says that there shall be affordable housing here. That's what the act says, will be affordable housing in any zone that allows housing or commercial development. Doesn't apply to an industrial zone. So that was an interesting revelation back then. But those were the types of early decisions that really shaped the law. There were other experiences that I've had along the way. In the town of Brookfield, I was actually approved for an affordable housing plan, but the commission really hated the plan. So they attached 6 conditions of approval, each one of them impossible to perform. It was impossible to build that project
Where they want.
of fireproof, not fire resistant, fireproof material. So basically cinder block. And you weren't gonna sell a project in Brookfield, Connecticut that looked like an army barracks at Fort Benning. Cinder block. They needed a water supply that provided fire flow greater than the hydrants on the main street of the city of Danbury. How do I know that? I saw the numbers that they said the fire flow had to be. I called my friendly engineer in the city of Danbury and I said, look at these numbers. Do you have this? He said, oh my God, that's 3 times what we can provide for fire flow to fight a fire on the main street of Danbury. And, you know, but those were the requirements. We went up on appeal. We appealed the approval. And Judge Dennis Everly wrote the decision and he analyzed each condition separately and found they had nothing to do with health or safety and that they were done for the wrong purpose. He could obviously see they were done to defeat the affordable housing project. And quite honestly, he threw them all out. The project exists today and it's actually not a bad project. I can't say that I was embarrassed to be a part of it. It turned out to be a decent project. But that's affordable housing in a nutshell. So, you know, to the extent that the public has trouble grasping it, I'm not surprised.
Sure, because they know we do regulation in our book and wonder why it's not, which is what they brought up last time. Oh, why it doesn't apply. And it doesn't apply because it's affordable housing and those regulations don't apply during a presentation of affordable housing.
But it just for the public's benefit, there was a case that I did lose on affordable housing up in Middlebury, Connecticut, many years ago, where the commission found that we couldn't provide a sewer connection. And that's health and safety.
That's health and safety.
It was a major project and we didn't have the sewer. What they did is they ruled out the easement that we had purchased to tap into the sewer as an illegal connection. The sewer was there, but our proposed route to it was thrown out and the court agreed. So that project went back to the drawing boards. But that's affordable housing.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
You're
And
welcome. Well, look,
Mr. Market?
it's one of my favorite
The
subjects.
floor is now yours.
Well, I think I'm trying to figure out where we left off. We left off at the last meeting. Were we still waiting to hear from Todd Ritchie at that point?
He's here
Is he
tonight.
through?
He's here tonight.
I don't know, does he have more to add to his comments? Because I'm looking to see if Steve Trinkus has joined us.
I don't see him at all.
I don't see him. He was traveling and he said, but he tells me from his perspective, the application is complete and that there were no still open issues. One of the things that you were looking at was the report from the fire department and the police department was not issued. There was a report from the fire department and we had modified the plan to provide better access on a set of basically large landscape steps going up to the back of the property. That was a revision that we had submitted for the commission's meeting, but it had not gone back to the fire department. Have we heard back from them at all?
Mr. Marcus, can I answer that question?
You can absolutely answer any question.
Amanda, did we receive a written report at all from the?
I did not receive
I was
anything.
a little early.
I don't know.
Okay, so there was no written report in the record from the fire marshal.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I said to say, we believe we addressed his concern, and that was his only concern, was to make sure that that there was reasonable access
To the back of the building.
back to the building.
Mhm.
Did you receive anything further from Steve Trinkus?
Yes, the map, yeah,
Oh,
these plans, and then his latest comments.
You have it?
Yes,
What's the date on that?
September 22nd.
Okay. Has the commission had a chance to look at those?
I have not.
You want to give me a copy, because I realize.
Yeah, of course.
My
Mhm.
copy's still on my desk.
I bet we have them right here.
Oh, yours for a second.
Yeah.
There's plenty of copies if you like,
Oh.
Trumbull.
Should I take
I
it?
will file something.
Yeah, I know, but I was gonna see if I have it right here. Oh, here, I have it. I do, that's right, she gave us a.
Amanda, can you clarify that one again?
Yes,
So we received those comments Saturday.
Hmm.
I forwarded them, we forwarded them, either Amanda or
Oh,
me
this I did.
forwarded them
Yeah.
to Todd Ritchie on Monday. So I believe Todd Ritchie is on the call tonight.
Ready.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, these were in response to the original engineering comments.
Mhm.
And again, you know, going back to my original comments, none of these really have to do with specific health or safety issues. A lot of it has to do with preference as to how you want to treat design, but it's not a safety issue necessarily. But again, I'm not sure, we'd have to hear from Todd Ritchie to see what issues are still outstanding that are directly related to health or safety.
Neil, this is Steve Trinkus. Can you hear me?
Oh, Steve, you're there.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
finally.
We didn't hear you
Okay.
before.
I'm actually in the middle of New Jersey coming back from Maryland, but in a safe place. So yes, we got Steve Trinkus for the record. I'm the engineer for Tim Draper. We got Todd's comments the end of last week, and knowing that Tim was away and I would be away, I went through them. The only changes we made to the plan is we took off the staked hay bales around the existing catch basin, and we used the Filtrex sock that would protect the catch basin during construction. Todd asked us for the site distances where the existing kind of parking area is, where the new driveway will be. So we went out with a transit and we shot the site distances from a 3.5 foot height to a 3.5 foot target on Nashville Road. And both of them are in excess of 250 feet, which is 10 times the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So that information was added to the plan. And then Tim had discussions with Tom Galliford about using what are basically large landscape stones. They're 4 foot long, 1 foot wide, and about 6 or 7 inches in height. And we showed on the plan a walkway from the driveway along the southern side of the building up to the grade on kind of the back corner of the building, so the fire department can walk up the steps. They would be 7 inches risers, which are what your typical residential step is, and then they would be able to walk up there with a ladder, and have access to the back of the building. Those were the only changes that we made to the plan, and I updated my prior response to Todd and emailed them to the land use office last week.
Thank you. So that's all we really have to present this evening. The rest of the plan was actually presented in detail at the last meeting, and at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple building. It's a 3-family unit.
Mhm. Okay,
Kitty? I
Yes.
think there was some question in the report about whether or not the two buildings are too close together, or that's some reply. They're waiting for the fire department also, I think.
Yeah, we are waiting for the fire department.
However, Steve Trinkus, again, for the record, if I can say, the code requires 5 feet between the buildings, and we're just over that. so it does comply with the fire code. But you're right,
Okay,
we have not heard.
Steve, that's what I was trying to clear up.
I'm sorry, I can't hear either one of you. I don't understand what either one of you said. I can't understand Mr. Trinket. His voice is a little low. And
Steve, your transmission is terrible.
It's
But
not
what you-
good.
Steve was saying that the building, that the fire code requires a 5-foot separation, and we're slightly in excess of that. And again, I think Bob's comment, if I heard it, was he still wants to.
You mean the building, the building on, if you're facing it, the building on my left? Is that the one you're talking about?
The separation between the left and the
That
right.
building,
Two
right.
buildings, yeah.
So you
The
think that there's
existing
5
and the
feet?
new. The existing and the new.
Okay. All right. I just, should we go to the public first or to,
Go to the public.
or to Mr. Ritchie first? I think we should go to the public first, right? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, is there anyone here who would like to ask any questions? Please stand up and give your name and address, please.
Thank you. Bob Sutton, 46.
If you would speak up, because we have to get you on mic, okay?
It's Bob Sutton, 46 Nashville Road. I own the property right next to where Draper.
Excuse me, Mr. Sutton, if you could come to the front, because people on the Zoom.
Closer to the screen.
And closer to the screen, just so people can hear and see you.
That would be
great. Thank you.
wonderful, thank you.
Close enough.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Photos.
All right, I live at 46 Nashville Road. My property is right next to where Draper wants to build. All right, now I have a couple of questions, one dealing with the steps. What is the material going to be built with? Wood, brick, concrete, cement?
You ask us and then with questions, we'll answer at the end.
That's what I'm asking.
Thank you.
All right. The second thing that I,
One at a time, please, Mr. Whoever's on there. Go ahead, Mr. Sutton, you're
all
right. you're
right,
on.
the second concern that I have is it's a huge drop off between my property and where Draper has not dug, but had the materials taken away. And I'm a little concerned, and I'd like to get some information as to whether he's going to build a barrier or a fence that will take care of the drop off so that no one will get hurt in the situation. In this day and age of frivolous lawsuits, I'm afraid that too many people would come onto my property, slip, fall, go onto his, and somebody's going to get sued out of the deal. Although I do have signs, as I stated in the last meeting, that I have no trespassing signs on 4 different areas of my property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to?
I have a couple of questions.
Would you want to come up? Yeah. Name and address, please.
I'm Nancy, 32 Ridgedale Road. Bethel, Connecticut. So I have basically just 2 questions. One, I looked at all this stuff. And it's pretty meaningless to me. It's like doing trigonometry. I'm afraid that it's also tiny. So what I'd like to know is when I drove past it, I saw where those orange spray marks were.
Right.
And I said, but you can't build, like, don't you have to blast? And so that's one of my questions. Are they going to be blasting away all that ledge so that they can build? And the second question is, where do people park? How close to the road is that actually going to be? It looks to me like it has to be basically right on top of the road, and to me, that would be very dangerous. So those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, David, oh, no, Kara's down. Is there anyone, I don't see anyone online. Who would be, oh, wait a minute.
No, I was just moving it.
What, anybody, if you're online, could you push the button to raise your hand so we know if you have a question or someone out there would have a question that we could tune you in? I don't see anybody.
One.
One?
Yep,
Oh, no, I can't, I'm sorry, I
Brad.
can't see it.
Brad.
Oh, all right. Is that Brett, Mr. Colts? You're muted, Mr. Colts. You want to unmute yourself? Can't hear you. Do we have to unmute?
no.
He's unmuted.
Yeah, he has to unmute.
He is unmuted.
Mr. Colts, we can't hear you. Nothing.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
Would it be acceptable for Mr. Coles to put his questions into the comments and have them read?
I think he left.
Would that be?
He waved like he was gonna try to reconnect.
Oh, he's
Oh,
up
he's
there.
there.
I don't know if there's,
No better? We can't seem to hear you. I'm sorry, Mr. Colts, you're not coming through. I'm sorry. You could submit your questions in writing if you like, but at this point, I don't know what else to do. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. Mr. Marcus?
Yeah, let's
Mr.
try that. Steve, Trick, is he still available? Let me ask. the
Yes, I
question.
am, Neil.
Okay, so
Yeah,
for
I think if I,
he'd like to know first, what material are the steps going to be made of?
they're natural cut stone.
So
They're,
stone.
they're quarried rock that is 4 foot long, 1 foot depth, and about 6 to 7 inches in height. So they're quarried rock that are basically rectangular. And they'll be set in the slope with bedding material to go up the slope to provide a walking path for the fire department.
Okay. Two, he thinks that there's a significant drop off between the Draper and the Sutton property, and he wants to know if there will be a barrier to prevent people from accidentally falling from one property to the other.
Well, if somebody goes on his property and crosses over the line, they're trespassing, and actually if they were to fall, they're liable because it's a trespass. As Tim is away, I do not want to commit to a fence. But you know, the cut is on Tim's property, not the adjacent property. I can try emailing Tim. He's gallivanting around, I think, southern France right now, and see if I can get an answer, which I could provide to land use. Regarding the other question about potentially blasting, the rock that was already removed was hammered out, and additional rock would also be hammered out and would not be blasted with dynamite. So it would simply be hammered out and taken off site as necessary.
That was question from Nancy Sudik, question number one.
Correct.
Question number two, how close will cars park to Nashville Road, to the road?
There's one garage space in each unit, and then there's a space outside of it. Not having the plan in front of me, I don't know what the total distance between the back of the second space and the edge of Nashville is, but we made back around areas on both the north and south side of the parking lot, so a car can back out onto the site, make a 3-point turn, and then pull out onto Nashville without going out into the road backwards. The current parking for the existing 2-unit house, that person pulls in and they back right out onto Nashville. You have a lot of sight line, and except for maybe in some commuter hours in the morning, it's pretty safe to back out from there, but we're not planning on it. There's enough room on the site to turn around and pull out of the site when you go to leave.
Approximately, we don't have within this second plan shows the approximate edge of the street line.
Yeah,
So
there's a dash. Yeah, the dashed line is the edge of the road. I don't have my plans in front of me, so I can't tell you what the distance is, but that's why we did the kind of bump outs on the north and south side of the driveway, was to allow a car, you know, even if it was front of the garage, to back up one way or the other, make a 3-point turn and go out by pulling forward onto Nashville Road, not having to back out onto Nashville Road.
So Steve, let me, since I am looking at your plan, but I don't have a scale. And of course, the plan I'm looking at has been
So
posted.
excuse me, Mr. Marcus, would it be helpful for those in the room and those of us on Zoom if David put the plan up so we can see it?
That would be very helpful, Ken.
Amanda. will
Yeah.
put the plan
Amanda
up.
will put the plan up, not David, thank you.
She's more helpful than Dave.
No,
David is recused.
Let me restate the question. Should we put the plan up so everybody can see it?
Thank you, Ken.
And because of the small scale of the site, the plan scale is 1 inch equals 10 foot. So if you look at the plan, you'll see a garage space in the garage. That's a 9x18 space, which is your standard parking lot. So you can probably visualize one space outside the garage and then the distance to the edge of Nashville Road.
Okay, so I'm up here at the board. If this is 9x18, which is a standard parking space, the distance to the traveled portion of the road, the apparent street line, is Oh,
Neil, I can help you with that if you like.
Okay. Yeah. Todd, you got a better scale?
I scale it up. Yeah, I think the closest, so on the north end, the
20
closest
feet?
space, the closest space would be 15 feet to the rear of the space from the edge of roadway.
I was
So
gonna
there-
say,
Yeah, so there is additional space behind the parking space that's behind the garage.
Nancy, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just can't visualize it when I drive past it. It looks like it looks like
What?
a cavity in a tooth.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, thank you, Todd. I appreciate your help. But
Yeah, if I may just say one thing, I think the perception is off right now because the building's actually going to be pushed further back than
Push
what
further back than it.
you may be expecting it to be based on how you visualize it out there right now.
I'm sorry, Todd, could you repeat that?
Oh, sure. I think the perception is that it's going to be closer to the road than it's actually going to be based on the visualization of what's out there right now, because some more ledge will need to be removed for the actual footprint of where the building is proposed. So it's actually going to be for, I don't have the total distance. I guess, it's 15 plus the 18, is the total distance from the closest point from the edge of pavement to the building.
And Todd, I'm going to suggest that if you, following up your cue, the new construction, the 3 units are set back from the existing house by about 10 feet. So if anybody wants to get Nancy again, she's the one who's looking, to get an idea of where the new construction would be, you have to go to the existing house and kind of pace off an area that's 10 feet back. And that's where the front wall of the 3-unit building will be. And that, of course, where the parking stall starts. And you do have, as I say, almost, good 25 feet road from that point. So there should be more than adequate.
Where it was marked, the red spots that were marked, okay? They went out and they painted 2 spots.
Yep.
The one spot, which we were told is where the front of the building was.
Correct. Front
Is
corner.
right in front of the Bilco door. This
Yes.
drawing does not show that.
Yeah. it does, yeah.
No, excuse me. This is, if you go to the site, okay, wait, hold on. This is where the red spot is.
That's right.
That is where the building is.
Right.
There's a difference there.
Well,
No, because the red spot is in the middle of the Bilco door. So there is, I guess the most important thing is, Mr. Tracus could tell, how much further is this building, how much more rock is going to be removed? How many more feet is going to be removed in order to put this building where you want it?
I would have to look at the plan and then I could provide the number to staff.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know offhand.
Okay, my other question,
That is my time.
Yeah.
Brad came back online.
okay, for the second round, we can do that. All right, no, all right, never mind, fine. All right, Mr. Coates, can you be heard now?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can.
you now.
Wow. Okay. Kitty, my question was,
Name and address, please.
Brad Colts, 1 Fairchild Drive. My question was there going to be an additional opportunity for public input after the discussion of this property, of this application at this meeting?
This is.
It's
the public hearing. This
It's
is-
unclear on the agenda.
I'm
as to-
sorry?
It's unclear on the agenda as to whether there's a second public input.
I believe this is on the agenda right now. This is our public hearing continued. So this is when it is the public's opportunity to speak. Are you asking me if we're going to be continuing this hearing?
No, I'm asking if at another point during tonight's meeting, there will
No.
be another opportunity for public input.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
I do have some,
You're given two opportunities tonight.
I see.
During the public hearing, when the public hearing is tabled or closed, whichever happens, then it'll be over for tonight.
Okay. I did have some comments, but they're not germane to this particular application. So I guess I'll join you at your next meeting with those.
So you have no questions about this Nashville Road? Is that what you're saying?
Nope. Only I did have a question about whether there's the commission will be voting on this tonight,
No.
given all of the recusals.
No, we will not be voting on it tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Coates, typically at the end of each meeting, there's an opportunity for the public to ask any questions in general. And I'm,
Oh, public comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. I'll wait. I will wait until then when it's more appropriate. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anything you want to comment on, Mr. Marcus?
Not this point. I think Steve, you'll owe a calculation of an estimate of additional material to be removed.
That's correct. I'll also either talk to Tim or his son Ethan about a fence along the southern property line.
And gentlemen, I have a question if I may, and I don't know whether it should be Mr. Trinkus or Mr. Marcus or Todd Group, Todd. And I can't really tell by these plans. Is there going to be a retaining wall against the section of the property that's having the massive removal of materials? And if so, what is that retaining wall going to be constructed of, and how will it be fastened, for lack of a better word, to the cliff, if you will, in order to keep it stable? I guess
that's actually a Trinkus. That's a Trinkus question, not a Marcus question.
Yeah, I guess that's
the
the
back
fourth
wall-
question.
Yours is more professional.
Yeah, the back wall of the building, and to a lesser extent, both the north and south ends, starting from the east side coming forward to Nashville Road, will be poured concrete walls. They will be designed by a structural engineer and on an appropriate footing, and then they will be, it'll be backfilled between the wall and whatever is the final ledge cut with basically excavated rock material. The rock is not moving down the hill, so the wall really does not have to be overly designed, in my opinion, but I'm not the structural engineer. I'll leave it up to a structural engineer. But if
So,
you were
Mr.
to
Trinkus, are you saying then, I'm sorry, are you saying then that the building itself, the foundation, will be the retaining wall, or there will be a retaining wall in between the house and the cliff,
No.
if you will?
The back wall of the building will be the retaining wall.
Okay,
Instead of it being
that's
a
what I
wood
didn't understand.
wall,
Thank you for that clarification.
It'll be a concrete wall.
Okay. And is that just the basement garage area that'll be
It'll
abutting?
extend up through the first floor for part of the floor area, and then the what would be, I guess, the third floor, because the garage is on grade, then the first floor, second floor. The second floor will be walkable to the outside grade behind the building. So yes, this wall will be up, anywhere, around 14 to 16 foot, and then it will be, backfilled. But it will be, I think Todd asked this question before, that it should be designed by a structural engineer, and yes, it will be.
Okay, just thank you. I couldn't get it pictured in my head looking at the plan. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Steve.
Kitty, back to you.
Yeah, please. Are there any further questions that the public would have?
I have one.
Go right ahead, please. Mr. Sutton, please come up front. Thank you.
I would just like to know when this is going to start, time limit wise. I'm talking about, in the past, I was informed that there was I guess a city or town ordinance that one could not start this sort of work until about 8 o'clock in the morning. Am I right or wrong on that?
We'll look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
As I brought it up before in the last meeting, that Mr. Draper had started at various times before 8 o'clock. And since there is a number of senior citizens that live on the road, they were concerned about him starting before a certain time. And I was just wondering if it is true that you can't start before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You can start.
Start at 7.
I can start at 7. All right.
Senior citizens don't sleep out there. They get my experience.
The way you try.
Don't ask me, I'm the exception to every rule when it comes to that. But
It's
Amanda,
7 o'clock when you start.
it is 7 o'clock, is it not? Our town, our ordinance is 7 a.m.
I don't.
You have two staff members sitting here. Do you want a clarification from
Yeah.
one of the recused
Would you mind?
staff members, or you wanted to answer the
No,
I
please.
think it's important to answer.
The noise ordinance of the town of Bethel addresses noises pertaining to actual construction of homes, things of that nature. That is governed by the police department of the town of Bethel. Anytime a commercial endeavor is taking place involving excavation materials, I believe that's what the adjacent property owners are discussing. The applicant is to follow the excavation and fill regulations of the town of Bethel, which is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday,
Excavation.
no weekends, no
Thank you.
help.
Yeah,
The
thank
construction
you.
itself.
Banging nails, you can start, you have to
Excavation.
follow the noise ordinance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Banging nails.
Thank you.
Okay.
We haven't.
That's
had
how I
an-
explained
No,
it.
we haven't had an excavation permit in a while, so for me, so that's why I didn't
I'm
realize.
just-
I'm sorry. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for making that clear. It is 8 to 5 for excavation. Thank you.
For the hammering,
You can start at 7.
let's not even get into the semantics of it. It's very clear, the office has done we know the rules, and I'm just trying to give you an idea. Someone's gonna put a plywood, electrical, bang nails, roofing, things like that, they follow the noise ordinance. If you have a piece of heavy equipment on the job, and you're gonna be hammering and removing rock or ledge and things of that nature, you have to follow the excavation rules.
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
do you agree with me?
I do.
Thank you.
All right.
We're good on that
Okay.
issue.
Okay, now we can go to the commission. Mr. Legnoy, would you like to start?
Yes, I have a question about the fence on where the property, height distances are in the corner next to the adjoining property owner. Doesn't have to be somebody trespassing that falls off there. It could be the owner himself walks to the edge of the property and trips and falls off that property. So I think maybe from a safety standpoint, we ought to look at some sort of fencing there. Doesn't have to be large, but it'd be enough to, show the separation of height distances.
Thank you. Okay, Linda, did you recuse yourself now?
I don't. So my question is, what is this going to look like? Because all I've seen is what's on these papers.
We had that question last time.
Yes, I asked you. Yes, I did.
Kitty
Right.
asked it.
I did.
And the answer is the building is the building that was constructed on
He's told us.
Good Hill.
I just-
So actually, if you take a ride up there, the building will be slightly modified because it's a slightly different shape. But the material and the basic facade will reflect what's up on Good Hill.
And add a garage to the first floor,
Correct, yeah.
because I did that, and I went back twice thinking, wait a minute, what did I miss? No, they said garage. And so I thought, I went to the back to see if there was a garage in the back.
Not a good
Yeah,
one.
no.
I know,
Yeah,
but-
you have, I just love going visiting sites, so that's
So
what.
basically, it's gonna look like Good Hill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, well, look at this, there you are.
And there it is.
So can you turn it around?
No.
No.
He's good, but not naked.
I'll just stand like this for a while.
There we go.
It's okay. So what we're seeing on the right, as we're looking at it,
Mhm.
that is, help me here, that's the front of the
Yes,
building.
yes, that is
Hold on,
fine.
hold on. The front of the building,
Mm,
and at the bottom of, on the right, the plan on the right, the bottom area is the garage.
Correct.
Okay. Alrighty,
The horizontal lines, if it were standing properly.
right, would be the garage. Okay. Thank you.
And so the picture alongside, to the left of the front is the back. There's going to be all those windows looking at a wall.
Kitty, Steve Trinkus again. The windows will be up on the uppermost level, depending on the grading on what would be the first floor levels. Tim has discussed with Tom Galliford of creating window wells for ingress, egress, fire ingress, where it would be sloped up. So there would be possibly one window on the first floor level, going out. But offhand, they would be on the second floor. They'd be on the front of the building facing Nashville Road, and also on the north and south ends, which are again exposed to the air and not into the rock.
Sides, not the back.
Okay, more questions, more questions. Can you just repeat, please, how many parking spaces per unit?
There are 2 per unit.
And one is the garage,
And one is right behind the garage.
or in front of the garage?
Well, in front of it, however you look at it, yes.
Mhm. Yes, in front.
Okay,
Driveway.
okay, so it would be to the left in front of the garage. Okay, are any of those spaces handicap accessible?
No, there are no handicap units proposed here.
Can I ask why?
The site simply isn't suitable for them. Because of the grading and the way the building designed, to make them ADA compliant, you would have to have an elevator in the unit.
Okay,
But you're gonna go in one of the doors and up a flight of stairs.
Right.
Or you're going up 2 flights of stairs to get to the upper level.
Yeah.
So,
okay. That's it for questions.
Okay, Rob?
Nothing really of consequence. I'm just looking at the architecturals and the garages are not evenly spaced where they look like they are on the site plan. Like small, kind of a small point, but it's just stuff floating out. Otherwise, everything is that my main concern is with the rock wall and retaining wall behind. That's been addressed.
Okay, my turn. Now, my first question had to do with, I believe, the Bilko door, which I think your map now makes it a little bit clearer. When I went over to the site, the red marking was adjacent to the Bilko door, which meant that the people in that house could not use it. So the actual building is going to be how many feet away from the Bilko door so the Bilko door can be used?
Kitty, Steve Trinkus, I don't know the exact distance, but I will look and I will, again, let staff know in an email. But it is behind the Bilko doors to maintain that access.
Right.
Can I just ask, could you, when
Sure.
you use the term Bilko,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
Oh, it's the door, I had one in my house. It's the two metal doors that open to a basement.
Of the original house.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Manufactured by the Bilko company.
It's a trademark, like
Okay.
dumpster.
Like a
Now-
Frigidaire.
Right.
I have several other questions, Mr. Trinkus. I need, and you can get this information for me, I hope. I need to know how much excavation has already occurred on this site, because it looks like there has been quite a bit, and how much more excavation, in particular to that wall behind. If you recall, we had a situation very similar to this one on Taylor Avenue. Similar wall, similar construction. And we put a fence at the top of that wall and had a geotech come to check the stability of that wall once it was done. And so depending on how much more, after 1,000 square feet, you need an excavation permit. So will that be necessary for this site? And have you look to have a geotech come and observe the wall after you're finished working on it?
Well, the building's going to be set into what will be a new cut face of the ledge. There's not a similarity to Taylor Avenue. Quite honestly, it's kind of an apples and oranges. Taylor Avenue was blasted. We had a vertical rock face. It was away from the building. It was not supported by a wall. It was not a part of the building. It was simply a rock face and with a vertical drop down. And that's why the fence was put up there, because there was nothing adjacent to it. In this case, the building is going to be set back into the blasted area, or the hammered area, I should say. More rock will come out, which will get you that volume. And, the wall itself of the building is the retaining wall. There's nothing separate. And then the area outside of the building wall is going to be backfilled. So there's not going to be a gap between the wall and the cut face of the rock. The rock face is stable. It's not a slope where you need a geotechnical evaluation. It's not moving anywhere. The limit of the upgrading slope is just really behind the limit of the rock that was removed here. And the slope actually pitches further to the east, albeit slightly, but it does not come down towards this area.
So,
the rock is very stable. It's there since it was cut out. Nothing has fallen off of it.
well, you're still gonna have to take more rock
It's
out.
very stable.
You're still gonna have to take more out to get this.
Yes,
building
and
in.
we'll provide that volume, as I said before.
Okay, now the other part is, when I'm looking at this drawing, it shows the stairs for the fire department. Only going halfway back.
Because
on the side of the building. How,
at the end of the stairs, they're matching the existing grade. Need to go further than that. They're matching onto grade at that point where they can walk on the ground.
I'm sorry. So you're telling me then there's going to be a grade that goes from there all the way around the back of the building?
Correct, yep.
And you'll be
Where
able
they
to
can
show
walk
us
around.
this, you'll be able to show us this more
Well-
clearly, because this map does not show me
Well-
this.
There's a cross section on the plan, but I'll put spot elevations there to make it clear what the grade will be behind the building.
I'd appreciate that very, very much, because as I'm looking at this, I see a flight of stairs going halfway up one side of the building, and I don't see anything else going to the end or to the back. And then you need something on the other side as well, because there's a lot of wall on the other side, isn't there?
But you just need fire access from one side.
Okay, all right, so it's complete. And and of course, we haven't heard from the fire department yet, so. But if you could get us that information, I'd appreciate it very much.
Yep, we will.
Okay, Mr. Ritchie. Are you there, Todd?
Yes.
Hi, Todd. You've been looking at this. Can you help answer some of our questions or point me in the right direction here? Because I'm a little confused right now.
Or share your comments with us. please.
I certainly can. Again, for the record, my name is Todd Ritchie. I'm a registered professional civil engineer. I'm also a board certified environmental engineer, certified floodplain manager. I'm a registered environmental health specialist and a registered sanitarian. I've looked at this plan again on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission since I've been requested to review a variety of applications for the town. I probably, since I've been back on board as a peer reviewer, I've reviewed this application in addition to 6 or 7 other applications for the town. And consistent with, standard zoning regulations as applicable, as well as health and safety issues, environmental impacts, civil engineering. And for this application, it wasn't necessarily, my charge wasn't restricted because of the recusals to just civil engineering. It was to anything related to the planning review process. However, I will not review anything that's outside of my scope of knowledge or experience. So my comments, I believe so far have been relevant also for referrals to other departments for their comment and review as necessary, which apparently is either in the process of or they've addressed my referral comments. So I have worked back and forth with Mr. Trinkus on several review letters and response letters. Have made progress certainly with his responses and modifications to the plan according to some of our comments. I can kind of walk through, I think it may be helpful for me to sort of walk through and help people to understand the plan. Because it is, even though it is a small site, it is kind of complicated from the topographic standpoint. And some of the questions that were asked, I could probably clarify for you, Madam Chair, as you mentioned, for distances and such. So if I may, I will share my screen. I do have like a slide kind of marked up to just help everybody understand and guide you through your answers to questions, and just confirm that you can see this and we'll be all set. Can you see my screen? So again, these are just kind of working markups, overlays to help people visualize and understand Mr. Trinkus's design plans, the site plans. This is the existing conditions plan. As noted, this is the area of the existing ledge removal approximately that everybody can kind of see. This is a Google Street View of that area as excavated. So, I mean, you could drive by there today and see essentially the same thing without the machine on the view there. So that is what the existing conditions are at the site right now. This is sort of, this is the site plan. There's some lines on here that are going to help people to understand and explain not only answers to your questions, but some recommendations that we have for the plan. That still maybe need to be addressed or asked further questions by the commission, by myself, myself or Mr. Trinkus, either of us. So just to start out, this is there is an existing driveway, so wide, I guess, driveway parking area on this side of the existing house. And that's essentially, if I go back, that's this area right here that in, I guess, town GIS photographs going back to like 2016, this area was created for parking on this side of the house, the existing house. So it will, the proposed driveway will line up with that proposed building on this side of the house. And as Mr. Trinkus mentioned, it will be approximately 5 feet from the corner. I guess it's the southeast corner of, let me just make sure my bearings are right. I probably covered up but usually north is up. So southeast corner of the existing house. And this is that hatch or Bilco access to the basement that you're asking about or interested in. Based on my measurements, it's about 1.5 feet from one corner to the proposed foundation, and then roughly 2.5 feet or so to the other corner from that hatch. And this is just scaling off the plans. As Mr. Trinkus mentioned, and as you can see here, the footprint of the proposed building will need to be, it's rectangular, and it will need to be set into, and more rock will need to be excavated from that already excavated rock area in order to build the foundation of the building. It's not as much as what was removed already. If I had to guess, it'd probably be a quarter of what was removed already, perhaps, or less, because it's just in basically the northeast and the southeast corners of the building. It looks like there'll be somewhat of an offset likely required to build that foundation wall with the formwork. And I estimated it with this red line right here to show that it's probably maybe like 4 foot off of that foundation wall that will be over excavated rock, so that there's space in there to actually set up forms and any bracing or anything else, because that's a pretty high wall that has to be constructed for the back of the building. So I'm sure there's going to just be an over excavated rock area for that to happen. So that's this red line right here. So I've kind of labeled that as the 4 foot mark. That lines up with the now proposed steps on the south side, and those steps will, certainly provide that foot access to the back of the building now, and with those to achieve that grade transition. We do show this, this is a steep rock slope in the back. Even it's just, some of it, I wasn't back there, but I mean, it's 1-to-1 on the plan, and it's going to be greater when more rock gets cut out, because the rock's going to essentially be cut out almost vertically along this red line in order to get the foundation. And so we do recommend that both there be temporary safety fencing along this blue line surrounding the whole back area during construction, and then the permanent fencing may just be required when all is said and done and the grades are filled in around the building to that new staircase, which would probably be just a railing on top of the edge of the steps or something of that nature, which is this purple line right here. So I think that can be relatively easily achieved in order to, address the concerns about having fall protection from this direction. Certainly, I agree there could be issues relative to trespassing, but certainly there could be issues relative to any curious kids or any people that might want to wander around the applicant's property at any given time that certainly need to be addressed too. So that just needs a closer look maybe when the time comes as a condition of approval, whatever that may be. We did, just to give you an idea of the cross section that Mr. Trinkus was referencing through the building. This kind of shows that here. This is that 1-to-1 rock face that will be achieved, but I've kind of modified it just to show that there's probably going to be a 4 foot offset. So there would be some vertical or steeper rock area here to get that foundation in. And then this purple line right here is the required retaining wall section. That's actually going to be holding back the earth backfill based on this section. And that's about 18 feet high of retention, soil retention wall. And it could, you know, it's all one wall. I don't know where it will actually end, probably at the second floor level or somewhere around there. But that's something that will need to be designed, as mentioned, again, by a structural engineer, and which is obviously a requirement and standard practice. And then at the bottom of the wall, you have a foundation drain, I'm sure, if not more, depending, and maybe there's a drainage board that gets put along the wall for any water that infiltrates through the soil backfill, but also there's going to be water flowing, you know, sometimes out of the ledge or along the ledge and into the soil as well. There's going to be infiltration through the soil. So ultimately there needs to be some sort of drainage for that, that foundation. So that's something that, you know, can be addressed, you know, certainly through the approval process. Again, having footing drain connection, I guess my comment relative to this is this gets worked out through building department process, but we certainly need to know where the foundation drains would be going so that they're not just dumping out on the driveway or somewhere that they're going to cause some sort of icing hazard or something like that. I guess a couple other comments related to just, again, explaining about the site. There, we talked about the parking spaces, which are right here, that are these rectangles. And as you can see, there is space between the edge of pavement or edge of street line right here and those spaces, so they're not right up against the street line. There was, you know, we had a question about the connection of the outlet from the underground stormwater system to the existing town's catch basin. Mr. Trinkus said that it was filled up and it wasn't visible or that it wasn't accessible. So, you know, not wanting to, I guess the town wasn't going to go out there and figure it out and Mr. Trinkus is away. I took a ride out there to take a look, just, you know, wanting to know, is that going to work, and just making sure that it's going to be, the pipe isn't going to be below the outlet pipe. So I was able to access that drain, and it is visible. The pipe is down in this photo here that I took. So I took the cover off, and here's the pipe here. It's a ductile iron, 15-inch ductile iron pipe. So it is there. It's not blocked. It just has sediment in the catch basin just below the pipe. That, and then I did also find the outlet that wasn't shown on the survey, which is right along what appears to be a water course. So the other question I had was just to make sure, you know, as far as process goes, that water course appears to be like 28 feet from the edge of pavement. So it looks like if regulations apply to inland wetlands and water courses, that this project may be under that regulatory authority. But again, that's a deferral I'll have to make to town staff or the commission to determine whether that applies in this case. So that is something I found just by tracing out that pipe. I didn't know if that was a drainage ditch, but this is the photo of the water course on the other side of the road, which is right off the edge of the road. So all in all, I think lastly was that the existing building or the existing structure that we were talking about, which is great. Actually, I think it might have, sorry. Right here. Sorry, I could use this one. This is the existing house. It's stated as 2 units in the building. The town records currently have this as having 1 unit according to the assessor's record. So the applicant hasn't submitted any floor plans showing how this has been either already compliant with having 2 separate units or proposed to be compliant with having 2 separate units. So those are the comments that I have based on just running through the site plan. But I'll just kind of wrap up by saying there's a couple of outstanding comments that we suggest be addressed. One is that we suggested that there be yard drains where this swale is proposed in the back here, partly because this is in this direction, this swale with these arrows is directing it into basically the area of the proposed building and also the existing building, which would be any runoff that would be in that direction. And then to the south now with the, particularly with the staircase even, the swale would direct it to the staircase and water would run down the staircase. So we think that's a simple thing to address. I think Mr. Trinkus could consider that. The safety fence, as we mentioned, during construction, the blue line all the way around, because this is an area that certainly is steep. This area will not be as much, not for us to make a determination, but perhaps after construction, this area is not going to be in the back directly behind the building, isn't going to be potential hazard. And more so, it's just along the steps that go down on the south side. The access to the basement, I guess the question is that enough space that's adequate for access to the existing basement within the existing unit? I would defer that to building official or someone to make that determination, but you know, it does limit the space that is there based on these dimensions that I had mentioned. We do, it sounds like Mr. Trinkus is going to add some more spot grades to clarify the grades around the south of the building. We ask that he also do that along the back side of the building and the north side of the building, you know, just so that there's an understanding of what the final grades will be around the perimeter of the building. And I think that would help also for, you know, somebody reviewing the plans and consistency during construction that, you know, the grades are being achieved. As I mentioned, the foundation drainage discharge location, this, providing that. We mentioned having the catch basins have like a hooded outlet so that it can trap any debris, floating debris, like organics and any, you know, oils and greases and things like that. It's something that certainly can provide pretreatment prior to going into a system that's entirely based on infiltration, especially for the smaller storms and the water quality storm and such. So I think that's a pretty simple thing to ask for too. So in conclusion, I think that in addition to just those comments that we had, which you know, I could certainly reiterate or summarize outside of my notes that I had prepared just before the meeting. We also just note some administrative items. The revised plans for the engineering plans, that we haven't seen copies that have the signed and sealed copy. So whether that be, I think the town requires originals signed and sealed, which I'm sure they can be provided. Also, the survey plan that was submitted so far doesn't have a sign and seal from the surveyor either. For record, that should also be provided. And then floor plans for the existing house to have 2 units, and also just a determination by whatever authority can make the determination whether or not the water course across the street is applicable to this application. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Kitty, Steve Trinkus, if I could just ask Todd as I'm on my phone, could you provide PDFs, Todd, of your marked up colored plans so I get a better sense of what you marked up? I mean, I think I did listening to you, but looking at a plan would be more helpful.
Yes, definitely. I'll forward the file along.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. So, Commissioner, everybody set? Okay, for now?
Yeah.
We do have quite a few questions that will be coming forward, Mr. Marcus.
Yeah.
That door to me is huge. And I say it because I have one. And if I go to the back and I open it up and I'm carrying something to go into the basement and I have 1 foot, I'm in trouble. And that's about, and it's a lot of cases, that's the only access to a basement. So,
You just have to keep in mind one thing that actually you can't overlook, and that is that the same person who's building the new house owns the 2 Bilco doors, and I'm still giving some thought as to how he's got to get in there because he needs access to his own basement. But I'll figure it out. It's a good question.
Yeah, I believe so, it is. And the one, there's another thing about this, and of course, there was anything I think anybody can do about this. Gone over this plan a million times. These are 2-bedroom apartments, apartments with 2 bedrooms. So there's gonna be children. And there's no place for a child to even sit outside. I mean, there's gonna be rocks and it.
It's not a child-friendly site. I agree with that.
Not child friendly, I say it's child unfriendly. And if you think about
There is a
the
park
area,
across the street though.
there's a what?
Is there a park right?
And, well, it's not a park where children go play. It's where people can go and hike. And if I have a 6-year-old, he's not going to hike in the park all by himself. I'm telling you that right now. But it
agree.
is what it is.
It is, yep, I agree.
So the answer is about the excavation, and I'm not happy about not, as far as that wall goes. I do think I heard him, Mr. Trinkus, say that the wall is going to be cemented after it's done. Did I hear you say that?
It's gonna be a poured concrete.
No, Kitty, Steve Trinkus, the back of the building wall is a poured concrete wall, and then it will be backfilled behind it. So it's not an exposed wall.
Yeah, okay, so obviously right now, if you tell me it's not good, can you show me on a map or something forward to us so we will get a better idea of where this concrete is going to be? It's gonna be the whole wall?
Kitty, the back of the building
No,
is
no,
the
I'm asking
retaining
you,
wall.
Ken,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
The cross section on the plan, Kitty, does show the proposed grading against the back of the unit. And we will be providing spot elevations, which will give the commission a better feel for what the grade will be behind the wall.
I can see the grade. I can see that, but I just want to know to where is the concrete going to be put up? How far?
That can be
We'll
exposed.
call that out on the plan.
I would
Sure.
appreciate that. Okay, so obviously, this meeting is going to be tabled to our next continued, excuse me, to our next meeting on October what, 13th, 12th?
That was the 12th.
Oh, go ahead.
Before we do that,
Please go ahead.
did I hear correctly? That the existing house lists that there are 2
Yes.
units in that building.
Yes, 2 apartments now.
However,
Will
that's
be.
not, that's not what the town information is?
No.
Todd, did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
I think there will be 2 units when they.
No, there
No,
are.
there are right
It
now.
says,
It's a 2-family today.
it says there are. I have a question, I question that.
So was the proper paperwork taken out for it to be a 2-family building?
My understanding, and I'll confirm that for your next meeting, my understanding is when the property was purchased by Tim Draper, it was a 2-family. So I'll figure out why that has existed. If there's any question, and my understanding, it's been a 2-family for a long time, not recently, but I'll find out.
I'm sure it has to be in the record somewhere.
Well, yeah, we're looking out of here.
Okay.
Kitty, I have a question.
Sure.
This is for Neil. Have we designated which units will be affordable? We do that, we'll do that before we get to the
2
approval.
units, so it must be just one, right?
We have not designated which of the units, but they're all 2 bedrooms, so it'll be a 2-bedroom unit. And we didn't designate which ones they're gonna be, but we'll do that.
Okay,
The town field card. Town field card. My card doesn't tell me how many bathrooms and how many kitchens this has. It has 3 bedrooms. It doesn't tell me how many kitchens. We'll find out. We'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
I can't tell you that here. But just in passing, before we close.
As long as one of the units isn't behind the Philco door, we'll be okay.
Thank you, Bob.
The design of the back wall of the new 3-unit building
Mhm.
was the design that my architect, who happened to be relatively qualified out of the Yale School of Architecture, designed for the house that I currently live in, that I built 43 years ago.
Mhm.
It is a large, it was, the Nazaro brothers came in and blasted the hill, and I have a rock behind it, built a retaining wall. The foundation drains that we put in around so that the water that comes down between the rock and the fill actually works the basement when it's wet. So the wall that you're looking at there, I'm looking at it now in more detail because Todd was focusing on the side, the cut through of it. And that's the type of wall that I put in. The only difference is mine was not designed by a structural engineer.
And you're lucky it works.
And the house is still there. I'm gonna go home tonight and wonder when it's gonna fall down. But
No,
that is not an uncommon type of structure. And quite honestly, it works very well. Again, so just to understand, I built a passive solar house in the northern exposure. The first floor is underground. The first floor of my house is concrete
Mhm.
to the back wall. So that's yeah,
Another quick question. I don't know this answer.
okay.
As you said, this is not a child-friendly property.
Site, not at all.
Okay. Are these rentals?
Yes.
Okay. Is the developer planning to have some kind of covenant in their rental agreement that this is not for children?
No, you cannot. That'd be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Yeah. And, you know, but it's interesting, if you, our experience, not only with this developer, though I've had a lot of experience with Tim, but our experience generally is where certain units are occupied by people who don't have children. And certain units are not occupied by people who are more elderly or even active adults, because they don't lay out, you gotta, as Bob said, you gotta go up, 2 flights, 1 flight to get to the living area, 2 flights to get to. But people tend to rent units that are suitable for their living needs. So I don't think that you're gonna find a lot of families that are gonna come in here. Now, I'll say, if you have an infant and you need to rent a place for a year or 2, you probably don't need a great play space. But once you get to the point, if there are housing options out there, this is not child friendly, but you can't discriminate. Absolutely.
Understood. Thank you.
You could also have somebody with a teenager, which would need another car, which could be a real problem.
You know what? Those are more problems. Those
Oh, I know all
are
that.
more likely problems. I agree.
Okay, so,
Okay. 2 weeks.
this meeting is going to be tabled and continued on October 10th, 23. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
October 10th is a Wednesday.
No, it's Tuesday.
Is it? What?
Yes.
October 10th is a Tuesday.
Excuse me, it's a Tuesday.
Mhm.
It's a Tuesday.
So what did I make my appointment for? Okay, never mind.
Betty,
Hi. Thank
it's
you.
5784.
Oh,
It's a new year.
I'm writing it backwards. That's no
Okay.
problem.
So, we have our business, we're gonna open our business meeting. And I think I will, let's see. Seat Rob for Rich Tibbetts.
Thank you.
And Linda, were you here at the last meeting? Okay, then I will seat you for Ken Parsons. Okay, the minutes.
Was Doug here at the last meeting? He's.
So Doug, you were here, weren't you? At the last
Yes, I was, and I was seated.
He was seated, yes, I know that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I felt confident doing that.
Okay.
Okay, the minutes of 9/12/23.
I move that we accept the minutes of September 12th, 2023.
Second,
Second, Bob Legnor, thank you.
All right,
Want to reseat Paul?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Paul, you can now be seated again.
I'm here.
I should be.
Do we have any invoices there, Amanda?
No.
Okay, so our new business is.
So, Kitty, are you gonna finish the vote on the minutes?
Oh, yeah, fine.
It's not raining.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Ken Stevens, yes.
Paul Shanley, yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I forgot the naming, but go ahead. Good, do the names again, please.
Ken Stevens, yes.
Paul Shanley, yes.
Bob Legnard, yes.
Linda abstains.
Penny, yes.
Kitty, yes.
Rob Wallace, yes.
Okay. Motion, yeah, any no's? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is new business, Begel LLC, zoning text amendment, zoning map amendment, neighborhood overlay zone, bed and breakfast, 150 Putnam Park Road. For the public hearing date for 10/14. I make a motion to set a public hearing date for 11/14, please.
I move that we held a public hearing for 150 Putnam Park Road, November
14th.
For November 14th, 2023.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Linda. All in favor?
Rob Wallace, aye.
Penny, yes.
Kitty, yes.
Linda, yes.
Bob Legnard, yes.
Ken Stevens, yes.
Paul Shanley, yes.
Okay, any opposed? Abstention, motion passes. Thank you very much. We have no work session. Any commission comments? Any public comments?
Penny's raising her
Oh, I'm
hand.
sorry, Penny, I didn't, she was poking me, so. Go ahead, poke me to death.
It's because we're wearing the same. So
Yeah, well, we're twins today.
In my wildest dreams, I do not look as good as you do.
Aren't you adorable? Thank you.
True. All right, a comment for my fellow and sister, commissioners. When we are asking questions of the applicant, whether we think it's a fantastic idea or whether we think it is an appalling idea, please, let's remember to keep our comments neutral. We cannot be seen as either favoring an applicant or disfavoring an applicant. It's not fair to the applicants. And it's unprofessional. And that kind of yes or no, and it doesn't matter, can only hurt the work that we do. So I've been talking to Beth a lot about this over the past couple of years. So I figured I would just bring it to the group.
That's great.
And beg your indulgence when we do that. And I admit there are times when I've said something negative about something. It's not good form. So that's my comment.
Thank you, because we are here to take in information and to learn. That is that's what we're supposed to be doing. Thank you. I mean, that's a very good comment. I appreciate it. Any other comments? Online?
Penny, you're referring to when the hearing is still open, but not in our work session.
No,
That's right.
when we get into a work session, all is fair in what we like and what we don't. But when we are responding or asking questions of an applicant directly during the public hearing, we have to we must keep things neutral.
Yeah, I wanted to be clear on that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is public input. Do we have anyone in the public who would like to have input? Mr. Coates, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay, wonderful. Sorry about the technical glitch earlier. Brad Colts, 1 Fairchild Drive. I would like to make the commission aware that the petition to repeal the transit-oriented district and overlay has now well exceeded over 200 signatures, 70 of them within about the last 36 hours after putting out a call to get people's attention about it. And as I've been sitting here, it's been still racking up additional signatures during the meeting. I would urge the commission to expand what you had done earlier relative to modifying the TOD and have an honest, open, and clear and transparent discussion about whether the TOD has passed its time in the town. I would point out that on a typical workday, the Bethel train station has perhaps 25% of the commuter spots taken, meaning that there's a tremendous lack of use of the transit that the transit-oriented district was originally designed to use as a supporting mechanism to expand some services in the town. Since we don't have that transit in place, since Metro North has recently stated that they plan to reduce the number of trains coming to Bethel by approximately 10%, I would urge the commission to reopen the whole concept of the TOD and respectfully request that you do that. I will also just let you know that if the commission does not reopen it, that the next step of this will be to gather enough signatures to hold a special meeting and have the town vote on whether to repeal it. I would urge this commission to do the right thing, to raise this issue and have this discussion well before the November election. This is a hot topic. The fact that over 70 people have signed this petition in such a short period of time, and all I did is just post it out to a couple of different forums on Facebook. So we really haven't done any real push to get this thing signed. So I wish to make the commission aware of the issue, to respectfully ask that you retake up this issue, and that you consider with an open mind whether the TOD has any function in the town any further. And obviously you're well aware of some of the complaints about the disruption that it's made to the basic zoning in the downtown area in the historic district. And again, I would urge you to take a good faith look at this and respect the wishes of hundreds of your constituents in the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public have any comments you'd like to add? No?
Nancy Sudik, that's Sudik, by the way. Yep, that's okay. Anyway, to Ridgedale Road. I just want to thank you first for having Neil Marcus give us that fabulous overview. And it became quite lengthy, but I was interested in the entire thing. I just thought it was fascinating. There were certain things I knew, but other things I did not. But one of the things I didn't know, but I guess I should have assumed it, I have always said we should have our infrastructure in place first and then do all the building. That was my thought. I always felt that way. And he said that a judge actually basically said the exact same thing, that the road that was a narrow, windy road, and I'm thinking of Taylor Avenue, but he didn't mean that. I know he didn't. But that very narrow road, that had nothing to do with the developer. The accidents there had nothing to do with the developer, had everything to do with the fact that the town had not maintained the road or fixed it or whatever they had to do. So I kind of took that as saying, really, we need to have, I think, all of our ducks in a row, such as infrastructure. The infrastructure needs to support whatever it is that you now need to decide. And you have a hard job, and I'm not trying to make it any harder, but I do think the town owes you at least putting the infrastructure in place. I know they're talking now about maybe having to build another school. I read that recently. No, it was just a Facebook thing. It was Superintendent Carver. And she said, we have no plans on the books yet, but we need to talk about this kind of thing. And it's true. The more people you get in town, the more kids you're educating. So that's what I wanted to say. I thought that what Neil did was great. Thank you for inviting him to do it. And I think he made the point, even if he wasn't meaning to, that we need to have our infrastructure in place first.
But yeah, Nancy,
Thank you.
what I will add to that is,
Spend the
that
money.
is why the public hearings mean a lot.
Yes.
Because it was the public hearing last week that brought up some questions, that showed us that the public wasn't understanding that we have, that they don't have to follow all the zoning rules when it comes to 830G. And that's why it was, we asked Neil to please explain so you would understand.
It was very smart you did that.
Well,
Thank you.
wasn't interesting, thank you. No problem. Is there anyone else who would like to share, have a comment? Anyone online over there?
Just thank you for chairing, Kitty. I appreciate it. I'll be back in town for the next meeting.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, do we have a motion, anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention? Motion passes. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.